Just moving on to competencies. So the regulations place a duty on all those making appointments or permitting anyone to carry out work to take reasonable steps to ensure that they meet competence requirements. It also requires the people who carry out design and building work to have relevant skills, knowledge, experience and behaviours and organisational capability to carry out work in the ways that ensures compliance with building regulations. And it requires the principal designer and principal contractor to have the relevant skills, knowledge and experience and behaviours and capability to carry out that work. Where the designer, principal designer or contractor is an organisation, it requires them to designate an individual who is competent to manage the functions as a principal designer or principal contractor. It also requires those carrying out design work or building work to notify the relevant people when they're no longer competent for that role. So, for example, a building may become too complex. Also, for higher risk buildings, the legislation requires a signed declaration from the client at Gateway 2 that they've assessed and are content with the competence of the principal designer and principal contractor. So in terms of what do people know about competencies, and these are set down within our sort of membership requirements for those on HRBs within UK spec. There are behavioural competencies, technical competencies, structural safety, so knowing about testing and performance versus prescriptive methods, knowledge of design risk management, awareness of how buildings work as systems, particularly with fire and safety systems, and an understanding of how secondary elements can impact safety. So, for example, if a vehicle hit a barrier or a brick wall, would that potentially cause damage? So in terms of competency assessment, it's the client that must assess the competence of the principal designer and principal contractor, and the principal designer must assess the competence of designers and take responsibility for their design work. The BSR will also assess the competency of duty holders at Gateway 2 and may decline to approve submissions. And competency assessment is based on skills and experience as evidenced by membership of an appropriate organisation or acceptance to the Engineering Council requirements through a register which the iStruct and ICE operate for higher risk buildings, for those working on higher risk buildings. So that registration scheme is now active on our website, and there is a link there.